Welcome to Rock Your Block, Beyond the Classroom. I'm your host, Gene Levinson, and today I'm delighted to have as my guest Mr. Greg Nussbaum, a Virginia Public Schools teacher who has also created an educational website, mrnussbaum.com, that is used by over 4 million students every month in 2/3 of the world's countries. Mr. Nussbaum has provided so many cool video clips for us to watch that we decided to expand this show into a 2-part series. Mr. Nussbaum, welcome.
Thanks for having me,
welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So let's see. So as a college undergraduate, you majored in psychology at Hamilton College, right?
That's right.
In upstate New York.
Yes.
And that's what the backdrop is that we're looking at here. It looks like such a beautiful place, painted with the fall colors and everything. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and how it might have led to your wanting to be a teacher?
Sure. So when I first enrolled at Hamilton in tiny Clinton, New York, I had no idea that I wanted to become a teacher. Actually, what I thought I wanted to be was a doctor and follow in my dad's footsteps. So I took freshman biology, and in the first lab, we had to do a dissection. And that cured me of any ambition to become a doctor. And I think my dad was disappointed at first, but so I gravitated towards psychology. And in my junior year, I took a child psychology class. And as part of that class, I had to go to a local first grade elementary classroom at Clinton Elementary School and observe the workings of a classroom. And I got to participate in. And so there came a point in the day where I actually got to read the kids a story. And I had experience with kids before. I taught tennis and I'd been a camp counselor, but it wasn't until that point where I realized, wow, this is something that I could actually maybe do. I had such a good time just reading stories to first graders and answering their questions and seeing their reactions. And so I started to think that this might be a direction that I could go in.
So I'll bet the fact that you enjoyed it so much is at least part of why you're so good at it.
Well, at first, there were growing pains like anyone has at any job. But after I graduated from Hamilton, I returned to my hometown of Pittsburgh, and I was pretty sure that was the direction I wanted to go in. And so I enrolled for my master's degree at the University of Pittsburgh, and I got my master's degree in K through 6 teaching.
Okay.
And as part of that experience, I interned at a local school where I was able to get experience in every grade from kindergarten through 6th grade.
Oh, great. So what are the specific grades and subjects that you focus on in your teaching?
Right now?
Right now or before?
Sure. Well, right now I am actually a advanced academics placement teacher. I teach 6th grade U.S. history. But prior to that, I spent 6 years teaching 2nd grade, which is unusual. And 2nd graders, first were a little, I think, taken aback by a 6'4" male teacher. But that was sort of the foundation of my teaching experience. And from there, I went to 3rd grade, and then I looped up with the 3rd grade class into 4th grade, which means that I followed the class. I had the same class for a 2nd year. And I taught 5th grade, and I taught computer resource before settling in 6th grade. And
let's talk about computer resources for a second.
Okay.
We can come back to that.
Sure.
Because I know that what the viewers are really looking forward to seeing, in addition to hearing about your interesting story, is all of these incredible video clips that we're going to go through that are just a small sample of what's on your website. So let's look at this first. Video. It actually takes place in Haiti. You want to just say a couple of words about that before we start the video, and then we can.
Sure. So a few years ago, I was contacted by a professor at the Department of Linguistics at MIT, and he had a theory that for Haitian students who had never been exposed to educational games, that would be a key for their learning. And so he got a grant. He got a grant from Apple to provide the school, which was located in a remote village, with a whole computer lab worth of computers. And so he contacted me and asked me if I'd be willing to use some of my games to help translate them into Haitian Creole, which would actually represent the first time that educational games had been translated into Haitian Creole. Yeah.
The first time.
The first time. And so this was a bit of a groundbreaking study.
Totally.
And so it was a hard project because Haitian Creole is so different. The closest thing to it would be French.
French, yeah.
But it was so different. And so programming the games was so different. We used different number systems. But eventually, so we took 9 of the games that I had made for English students and translated them into Haitian Creole, and it was amazing. It was amazing to see how the kids played the games, how they learned the skills, how the games actually taught the teachers there how to teach those skills.
And that comes across in the video. So let's get right in. Let's get right into this film. So let's go ahead and roll that film next. Wow, those kids are so cute. They really loved what they're doing, clearly. The fact that they wanted to stay there when the class was ending. I mean, I wish that were true in regular classes, in general. Usually the kids can, the bell rings, they can hardly wait to get out the door. These kids were staying. They had to be pushed out the door. I mean, that's really the way education ought to be.
I know, it was amazing. It was amazing to see them sing the songs, and it just was a great experience. It was one of the many rewarding experiences I've had in creating educational software.
Yeah, okay, well, so tell us more about this incredible resource that you've created for kids, right? you not only have games on this site, but there's a method behind what you're doing. It's all based on scientific motivational theory and so on. Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'll start with a little bit about the history of the site.
Sure.
So this site was born in 2003, and it wasn't. I never really envisioned the site to become what it eventually did. It was just a tool for teachers. Mm-hmm. It was a tool for my classroom. I wanted to be able to post assignments, and I wanted to be able to post pictures about what my class was doing. And it was sort of during a time where the internet was prevalent in schools, but it wasn't widely used still. It was still early.
It was still early days for the internet, yeah.
And so I bought some books, HTML for Dummy books, and I thought it would be really difficult to do, but actually it wasn't. It was pretty straightforward, and I learned to code basic web pages. Uh-huh. And I became really into doing this. And I had posted the homework and the pictures, and I was the first teacher in my school to have his own website, and it was really exciting. The kids loved it. They couldn't believe they could go online and see their work on the computer, and they could show it to their grandparents.
Okay. And so, I'd love to hear a lot more about that, but I'm getting a time warning, and I want to have time to go through some of these incredible videos.
Sure.
Let's see. So can you guide us through a few of these short video clips? The first one is called War Pretzels.
Yeah, well, I've found that the games that are most effective for kids are the ones in which they get to role play. And the weirder the role play, the better. So in War Pretzels, kids play the role of arm wrestling soft pretzels that have to answer double-digit addition problems.
That doesn't happen normally? Pretzels don't arm wrestle
Here and there
usually?
It might happen, but no, kids love that kind of role play. It's totally weird, out of their comfort zone. They love it.
Great. Yeah, I can really see how the kids did do the role playing, and I mean, the thing about the roles that they played is that there's a love of math that's emphasized in the roles that they're playing, which is so positive.
Totally.
Great. Okay. Well, the next one you told me emphasizes critical thinking. So let's go ahead and roll that one. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that. That's the one called Billions.
It's called Burnside's Billions. And the idea is to sort of integrate social studies and higher level math skills here. So the idea is that students play the role of an heir who receives $10 billion, but he can only have that money.
Only 10 billion?
Only 10 billion. And
I mean, nowadays, a billion here, a billion there. It's like,
right, it's not, but the idea is to buy up all the world's most famous landmarks like Stonehenge or the Taj Mahal.
I didn't know it was for sale.
Yeah, in this game it's all for sale.
Oh, okay.
And they have to use they get to use real-time currency conversion rates, and they have to do some math to figure out.
And they learn about the landmarks as well.
So it's a game where they have to use foreign currencies and do conversions. And they have to get the right conversion to earn the sale.
That's terrific. So yeah, so this game was based in the real world. It brings things together in a fun way rather than just rote memorization of a bunch of dry facts that are isolated.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so the next clip is Collage America.
That's right.
Let's look at that one, and then pretty soon after that we'll be taking a short break.
Okay. Collage America is one of the most fun games, at least for me, was one of the most fun games to produce. It was sort of responding to the idea that, elementary school students need a little dose of cultural literacy once in a while, and it was responding to the fact that kids don't know the states. And if they do know the states, they don't know anything about the states. So in this game, what they can do is they can put a collage together of the United States. They drag and drop the state shapes to their correct places on the map. And they can choose from 3 different states that have sort of landmarks or something important to that state.
Great, okay. Wow, well, that was, that was terrific. I mean, we could talk for hours about this. But right now, we're going to take a short station break. When we return, our special guest, Mr. Greg Nussbaum, will introduce us to his website a little bit more of the cool video clips that he's created at mrnussbaum.com.
I helped turn my child's public school into a whole new kind of school. One with a curriculum that really motivates kids. One that has extended hours, 6 days a week, year-round. With loads of academic, cultural, and recreational activities. One that has support services like medical and dental right there. A school where parents' involvement is encouraged. Where teachers have more time to teach. And students are excited about learning. There's just one problem. My child doesn't ever want to come home. You can help turn your school into a community school for excellence. Find out how. Call 1-877-LOVE-TO-LEARN.
Welcome back. You're watching Rock Your Block and today's segment of Beyond the Classroom with our special guest, Mr. Greg Nussbaum. Prior to the break, we were reviewing some examples of how Mr. Nussbaum is turning education into experiences for kids that motivate them to learn. Let's look at another one of these clips. Greg, Mr. Nussbaum, could you tell us about the next clip, which is called Lost Lunchbox?
Yes, this is one of my favorite games on the site. It was it's based on a kid's story that I wrote, and it's also sort of inspired by the old video game, The Legend of Zelda. So in the Lost Lunchbox, students have to find a long lost lunchbox, and they do this by solving various academic challenges within an enchanted school. For example, one thing they might have to do is solve a science experiment or order historical events on a timeline or put together a balanced meal. And for each one of these tasks that they complete, they get a clue to the whereabouts of this lunchbox within the school. It's a really, really challenging game for students, but they love it. And because it's so challenging, they're able to save their games. Some of the challenges require them to do some research, or might require them to ask mom or dad, or might require some trial and error. But it's probably my most extensive video game, and it's the game that most probably mirrors an actual video game.
Oh, okay, great.
So yeah, it's one of my favorites.
That really is challenging. I think I would find that challenging to do myself. I think the kids are probably much better at it than I am. I think when kids own the challenge and they really identify with it as a challenge that they really take into for themselves, that's when they will really perform at their best. And this game really encourages them to own the challenge and to really want to excel.
That's right. It's really for the self-motivated student. And I've used this game to challenge my 6th graders. And it takes this particular one takes some encouragement, but it is really exciting. And they talk to each other about it, and they exchange hints and codes that they find from the game. And it's a huge accomplishment when they finally finish it and they get to print out their certificate showing the world that they did it.
Great. Okay, well, we'll have a chance to look at several more videos in part 2 of this show, but I do want to get to some questions that go into a little more depth about the practical aspects of how your site can be used by students with various levels of ability, and also by teachers, and also, for that matter, by parents who are trying to help their kids and support their kids in learning difficult material. I've been amazed at how much material is on the site, and it's not just games. You also have drills, for example, addition of 2-digit numbers, subtraction of 2-digit numbers. These are all the same sorts of drills that you might see in the classroom, but it's so much more fun to be doing it on a keyboard where you can see it on the screen and where you get an instant reward for doing it right. You can tell when you did it right and when you did it wrong.
That's right.
That's just great. So how do you accommodate different learning styles that the kids might have? So in other words, kids, one of the things they teach us all, as in our own teacher education, is that kids have different ways of learning. Sure. And there's such a variety of different things on the site. Did you create that variety in order to cater to different learning styles?
Well, actually, what I think is I don't necessarily create games based on different learning styles. I think for kids, doing activities on the computer is sort of a universal like for all learning styles. That's what I've found. What I try to do is I try to create games for multiple age levels. So last summer, for example, one of my initiatives was to create games that I thought would be appropriate for pre-K students. For some of my games, I'll make them so multiple grade levels can play them. So they're appropriate for, so certain games, for example, like a speed math game, where students have 1 minute to try to answer as many multiplication or division or addition or subtraction problems as possible.
They seem to enjoy that so much more when there's a time element involved, because it creates an element of challenge and it makes it fun.
It creates a little bit of tension, and kids love that, and they do. And so what I found is that the crazy products of my mind just work for kids of all learning styles. And I've gotten plenty of notes from teachers who teach autistic learners, ESL, foreign students. And I've even gotten emails from wardens of penitentiaries who who use the games to help teach inmates basic skills.
Wow.
And so they just so again, I think that computer games and doing things on the computer is universally liked by students of all learning styles.
Now, do the kids need some kind of customized, in other words, if there's a certain set of skills that they need to learn, do they need some kind of guidance in order to know which resources to use? How do you build in the guidance that a teacher or a parent ordinarily would be providing for the kids?
That is always the great challenge of creating an educational website, and that's for a site that has 3,800 pages, that can certainly be a challenge.
Wait, 3,800 pages?
Yes.
On your site?
On my site, that's right.
Now, you didn't create all those yourself, did you, with your own two hands?
I did. This has been something I've worked on for 10 years. So every summer, every free moment.
Well, that's 300 a year. That's still quite a bit. That's one a day.
Right.
And you're teaching full time.
I'm teaching full time, but luckily, as I build these materials, I use them in the classroom as well. And so, in an ideal world, sure, a teacher would, be there to guide a student through. But a lot of teachers, what they do is they go to computer labs and they say, "Go on MrNussbaum.com," and students find their own way.
They just turn them loose.
They turn them loose. Students find their own way. They find the activities they like the best, and they just, do them.
I guess that really helps with the motivational aspect. If they're making a choice about what they're doing, they're going to want to do it a lot more than if somebody is saying, "Okay, do this, now do this, now do this."
That's right. At the same token, every activity, every game comes with a video, comes with a lesson plan for teachers to use for more targeted lessons. And there's plenty. Most of the content on the site is not games. Most of it is interactive educational research, for example, like for subjects like the 13 colonies or the American Revolution or birds. There are entire units, interactive units available on the website for teachers to use.
And how do you guide the teachers in using those materials?
I get emails all the time from teachers who ask, "What should I do?" They're self-explanatory pretty much. There are videos on the site where teachers can watch the videos and see exactly what to do with them. And from a lot of the sort of, one thing that teachers really like about my site is that there are activities that go along, interactive activities that go along with every unit. So they never have to leave the site. There are printables, there are things they can print out, there are things their students can do right on the site that go along with whatever the subject is they want to teach.
That's terrific. Okay, so let's see. So what sort of computer languages do you use when you're doing this programming? You mentioned HTML, right? That's the basic language of web pages, but there's more to it than that, obviously, in order to automate these things that that are in these games and so on.
Right. There's any website is made up of pages that are written in different languages. So on my site, there's your basic HTML. There is JavaScript. There is a language called CSS, which sort of defines the elements of a page. There's PHP.
The style, right?
The style, exactly.
Uh-huh.
There's PHP, which is another programming language that interfaces with a database.
That's become very popular in the web world, PHP.
It is. It's open source, and it's
Open source meaning freely available. You don't have to buy it.
That's right.
And it's supported by a community of people who care about what they're doing.
Exactly, and it interfaces with databases. The site makes use of Flash still, and increasingly in HTML5, which makes it accessible on all browsers and all devices.
What about JavaScript?
Well, I mean, yeah, JavaScript is probably most of my original games that I built were in JavaScript back in 2003 or 2004. That was the primary language in which web forms and games were written in. It sort of stood the test of time. It's still used a lot today. A lot of my applications or games are made up of multiple JavaScript files.
And did you learn that from JavaScript for Dummies, or how to do it? That one I think is a little more challenging.
Well, that was more challenging, and I'm not particularly good at it or good at any of the programming languages. But luckily,
I doubt that, by the way.
No, really. I've had students who are much better than me at programming things like JavaScript.
That I don't doubt. I mean, the kids just seem to pick it up so quickly.
Right. It's easier than learning an actual language. And for kids, JavaScript is a good one to start with. I think that, no, really, I luckily as time has gone on, I've been able to hire people who are much better at coding than me.
Terrific. Well, let's see. So do you have assistants doing all this programming?
Yeah, I have a team of people, an international team of people, and each member of the team is sort of adept at one of the programming languages. I have people who work on HTML5, I have people who work on JavaScript, people who do Flash, people who do graphic design. And so the website has grown to the point where I don't have to worry about doing any of that myself.
So how many people at this point are involved in
I have
all
six
this?
or eight programmers who work on it. And
6 or 8 programs. That's actually a lot of programming power there.
It is. It's
really
a lot of
is.
coordination. And so they are great at taking my crazy ideas and making them into reality.
Terrific. Well, the clock on the wall says that we're just about out of time for this first segment, but I want to thank Mr. Greg Nussbaum for sharing his groundbreaking ways of using experiences, adventures, challenges, and real-world examples to engage students and help them gain a deep and lasting understanding of a variety of subjects. You'll want to be sure to join us for part 2, when Mr. Nussbaum will continue to share his wonderful and innovative web-based learning tools and more of those great videos that you can find on mrnussbaum.com. Feel free to explore the site in between part 1 and part 2.